Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Chicago Bears at the Kansas City Chiefs in their Week 5 matchup, played October 11th, 2015. We're going to go over every score and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So starting off in the first quarter, Ramik Wilson would pick up a fumble in the end zone, and it would score the first touchdown of the game, a defensive touchdown. First it looked like it was a safety, but Wilson gets the fumble for the touchdown. The extra point by Santos is good, and it was 7-0 Kansas City over Chicago. And that was with about 8 minutes left in the first. Then with less than a minute left still in the first quarter, Robbie Gould hit a 44-yard field goal to put the Bears' first points on the scoreboard as they cut the Chiefs' lead to 4 with the score Kansas City 7, Chicago 3. So that was the score after one quarter of play. Then in the second quarter, 10 minutes before halftime, Alex Smith hits DeAnthony Thomas. He takes it 19 yards for the touchdown. Santos hits the extra point, and it was 14-3 Chiefs over the Bears. Santos would add a 35-yard field goal with less than 10 seconds left before halftime to push it to 14-point lead with the score Kansas City 17, Chicago 3. So that was the score at the half. Then in the third quarter, Robbie Gould would add a 30-yard field goal to the Bears' score, his second field goal of the game with about 3.5 left in the third, to make it an 11-point game with the score Kansas City 17, Chicago 6. But in the third quarter, Jamal Charles would go down, and then the early reports are it's a torn ACL. It was no contact. He was just making like a juke. He planted his right foot, and it looked like he tore his ACL apparently. He just went down, and it's sad to see, especially he's one of the best players in the game. It's sad to see it happen to anybody, especially a player like Jamal Charles, especially with how important he is for the Chiefs. So he left the game. They do have now Davis and DeAnthony Thomas, but Jamal is definitely where their offense runs through Jamal Charles. But so the Chiefs were up still by 2 scores, 11 points, heading into the fourth quarter. And deep into the fourth quarter is with just over 3 minutes left in the game, Jay Cutler would throw his first touchdown of the game, a 22-yard pass to Marquise Wilson. They went for the 2-point conversion, but they failed. And so it would be 17-12 as they cut the Chiefs' lead to 5. So now, at this point, the Chiefs would get the ball, and they went 3 and out. And so the Bears, forcing the 3 and out, they get the ball back. And now they had the ball on their own 33 with just over 2 minutes left to play in this game. Cutler threw an incomplete pass, and that brought it to the 2-minute warning. Then on 2nd and 10 from the 33, Cutler hits Meredith for a 20-yard reception. That brings the ball across midfield to the KC 47. Out of the no huddle, Cutler then threw an incomplete pass that stopped the clock with about 1:20. Then Cutler went to Meredith again. He picked up 10, and it was a first down at the 37 of Kansas City for Chicago. Cutler then threw an incomplete pass, stopping the clock with about 1:10. Cutler then another incomplete pass to bring up third down at the 37. And another incomplete pass, but a defensive pass interference call against Kansas City. And it's somewhat controversial, a little bit of contact, not much, but that would be a first down for the Bears in the red zone at the Kansas City 13. Then a 7-yard pass to the tight end Bennett, or a 6-yard pass rather, to the 7-yard line. So now 2nd and 4 with less than 20 seconds left in this game. And Cutler tosses one up for Forte on the left side. He brings it down, and it was a 7-yard touchdown pass. They went again for 2. It failed, but they were in the lead now by 1 with the score Chicago 18, Kansas City 17. So they went for 2 to try to make it a 3-point lead, as the 1 point really did them no good, because it would 2 points, 1 point doesn't make a difference. A field goal would win it for Kansas City, whereas if they had converted the 2-point conversion, that would have been with the potential of going to overtime. But Kansas City gets the ball. They have just 18 seconds on the clock, and a face mask on the kickoff would bring the ball to the 29. So they got the ball at the Kansas City 29. their own 29. And Alex Smith went to Jeremy Maclin. He picked up 23 yards, and Kansas City called a timeout with just 6 seconds left in the ball at the Chicago 48. So now Smith went back to Maclin. He picked up 9, but then they reviewed the play and they reversed it, and they said that he was out of bounds, that he had not secured the ball. It looked like he kind of juggled it at the last second. It was a very close call. But instead of what would have been a 57-yard field goal, it would be a 66-yard attempt for Cairo Santos. The Bears used their final timeout to ice Santos, and last week Santos was 7 for 7 against Cincinnati. In this game, he had already had a field goal blocked earlier by the Bears, and here he goes for a 66-yarder. Would have been the record in NFL history, but it was wide right, no good. And the Bears pull off the stunner in Arrowhead as they come from behind to score 12 points, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter in the final 3+. As they scored that first one there with 3:05, and then they scored the other one with 18 seconds left in the game. In the second straight week, the Bears pull off a come-from-behind victory in the closing moments, and they are now 2-3 on the season, 1-1 on the road. And the Chiefs fall to 1-4. They're 0-2 at Arrowhead this year. As this is a really bad loss for the Chiefs. For them to lose the way they did. Not only did they lose the game, they also lost their best player, as Jamal Charles went down in the third quarter. But it was their defense that really fell apart in the final moments of this game, in the final 3 minutes. Well, really about 5 minutes, because really final 7-8 minutes, because it was almost a 5-minute drive there for Cutler before getting that touchdown. So the final 7 minutes, he just picked them apart. And in this game, Jay Cutler, 26 for 45, 252 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Alex Smith, 16 for 30, just 181 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Smith had 3 carries for 21 yards. Cutler had 4 carries for 15 yards. Matt Forte, 18 carries for 71 yards. He also had 5 receptions for 38 yards, giving him a total of 109 yards in the game. He did catch that touchdown that ended up being the game-winning touchdown there at the end. Marquise Wilson caught the other touchdown from Cutler. He had 6 receptions for 85 yards. And Meredith, 4 receptions for 52 yards for Cameron Meredith. And for the Chiefs, Jamal Charles had 12 carries for 58 yards and 1 reception for 26 yards, which would give him 84 yards on the game before having to leave due to that injury in the third, which looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the season. And we wish him well, and hopefully, a very good, recovery and rehab. It's going to be a long road for Jamal Charles, sadly to say. Hopefully, maybe the early reports may be off, but usually if they think it's an ACL that quick, then it probably is. So that's sad to say for the Chiefs. But in the game, Jeremy Maclin, 8 receptions for 85 yards. Travis Kelce, 3 receptions for 35 yards. And for the kicking, Cairo Santos, after going 7 for 7 last week, he's 1 for 3 on the field goals this week, 2 for 2 on the extra points. Of course, 1 field goal was blocked, and the other one was that 66-yarder, so you can't really, blame Santos for missing those. And Gould, he was perfect, 2 for 2 on the field goals, and he did not attempt an extra point because both times they went for 2 down there in the stretch in the fourth quarter in the closing minutes of the game, as they were trying to make it to where a field goal wouldn't have the opportunity to beat them. Of course, it ended up missing, so it didn't really matter with those extra points that they went for 2. Peters was actually the leading tackler for the Chiefs, 8 tackles. He got called for that defensive pass interference call that would set up Matt Forte's touchdown 2 plays later there in the final minute of the game. And then Allen Bailey had a sack for the Chiefs. Howard had a sack. Bailey also forced a fumble. And for the Bears, Achu, 5 tackles. Houston had a sack. McPhee had a sack. And Young had a sack. We look at the team stats. 21 first downs for the Bears, 16 for the Chiefs. On third down, the Bears converted 6 of 14, 42%. 5 of 14 for the Chiefs, just 35% conversions. The Bears went for it once on fourth down. They did not convert. Total net yards, 328 for Chicago, 287 for Kansas City. Net rushing yards, 117 for the Chiefs, 87 for the Bears. Net passing, 241 for Chicago. Cutler was sacked twice for a total of 11 yards lost. 170 net passing for the Chiefs. Smith sacked 3 times, losing 11 yards on those 3 sacks. And then on the penalties, not a lot of penalties in this game. 6 for Chicago, 49 yards penalized for both teams. Only 3 penalties for the Chiefs. Of course, that 24-yard pass interference call in the closing minute of the game was the one that really killed them. And that's the thing that, it's weird to see when you only 3 penalties and then that one penalty pretty much cost them the game, as that put them in the position to settle for the touchdown. Of course, the Bears still had to make the play to get the touchdown. Of course, he passed to Bennett and then to Forte for that touchdown 2 plays later after that pass interference call that really hurt him. The Bears did lose a fumble in this game as they turned the ball over twice. Of course, that was the fumble in the end zone that was recovered for that defensive touchdown as the Chiefs jumped out to that early lead. So they're playing strong defense to start it off, but Cutler is just going for it. He actually tied Jim McMahon's franchise win record in this game with the win. Next week he'll be going to try to break it. The last 2 weeks, those come from behind wins by Cutler. So he's looking like Captain Comeback all of a sudden after coming back off of that injury. But in the red zone, the Bears 1 for 2, 50%. Just 1 for 3 for the Chiefs, only 33% in the red zone. Which, of course, that really came back to haunt them in the end of the game. And in the time of possession, the Bears 33 minutes, 37 seconds, 26 minutes, 23 seconds for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs have just fallen apart here early on in the season, just 1-4. The Bears on a 2-game winning streak. But you gotta wonder with the Chiefs what is going on. Of course, that secondary is having struggles, especially they were exposed down the stretch at the end of the game when the Bears were put in a position where they just had to pass. And, Cutler likes to, throw the ball. He's a gunslinger. But the thing you gotta look at with the Chiefs is, what is the deal? They have so much talent. Yes, Jamal Charles goes down, but they got Nile Davis, DeAnthony Thomas, even though Charles is the main focal point of their offense. But why is that? Partially due to how weak they are at quarterback. Alex Smith, it hasn't worked out with Alex Smith. The Chiefs, they need to draft a quarterback in the offseason if they ever want to get anywhere in this division, because they're going nowhere right now. They're in the last place in the West. The Bears, of course, they're in the NFC North against the Packers, who are perfect right now. So they've got an uphill battle to climb, and they don't have any quite near the team to catch them. And that's the thing about this game, is that the Bears, they were having a fire sale. They got rid of Bostic, they got rid of Jared Allen. They were talking about getting rid of Forte. He catches the game-winning touchdown here in this one. He's actually been the only player who's accounted for more scrimmage yards for a franchise in the last 4 or 5 years than Jamal Charles. So he's the main focal point of their offense, just as Charles is for the Chiefs. But they were talking about getting rid of him. And so it was the Bears were kind of calling the quits early on in the season, dumping off their players. And then they... the Chiefs can't even beat the Bears, who've given up on the season already. It's bad there in KC. They said, I really think it goes down to the leadership at quarterback and the performance of Alex Smith, because it forces their offense to play the way they do. If they had a better quarterback, then they could have actually a more balanced attack that doesn't have to be just everything's coming out of the backfield. Even their passing game is all just short passing. They never really can stretch it. Yeah, they got Jeremy Maclin now. He had another decent game. He's had a couple big games the last couple weeks before this game. Not 100 yards today, but 85, not bad. But really, Alex Smith, he can't get it done. He's never got it done, and he continues to show that he is that Achilles heel of the Chiefs. Of course, their secondary is also... struggling there. But they did hold Cutler, he had no touchdowns until the final 3 minutes. And he's still only 250 yards. But most of that came in that fourth quarter. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.